Do you remember back in December of 2012 when the Aztec calendar ran out and the world was supposed to end?
I remember like it was just yesterday.
And we celebrated with that big tea party, and we were ready to go out together, hand in hand, like
We
chanting
were.
"Kumbaya."
We were, although we were very no homo back then, so we would have, if the world was like falling into the sun, and we wouldn't have held hands.
That was just you, actually. No, back then we were doing like that game where we would like grab each other's genitalia and stare at each other in the eyes and,
That's
and do like
true.
a whole thing. You were on some like shit.
I'm
though.
alone in my shame.
Like, you were on some like no hugging thing.
I
But
was, yes.
that's a digression. The point is that was about 7 years ago.
Yes.
And I've accomplished nothing since then. And, at the end of 2018, I was like, 2019 is going to be my year.
Isn't
and
that
here
everyone,
we
though?
are, 7 months into the year, and all I've accomplished is the stupid podcast. Like, that's a regression of anything else.
I would say that's more than others have accomplished, though. And, since there is an apocalypse every year that doesn't happen, I feel like odds are one is bound to happen eventually, especially with, the scientific basis for climate change getting worse and worse with each passing day. So, eventually you won't need to worry about such things like accomplishments or life or anything like that.
I don't know if I could wait another 15 years. I think I'm going to fully embrace the accelerationist view.
Accelerationism,
Yeah,
baby. That's the way to
I'm going
go.
to leave the lights on when I leave the house. I'm going to litter whenever possible. I'm not going to recycle. Fuck you, Earth. What have you ever done for me?
What has the Earth ever done for us? The one thing that the Earth has done for us, it's given us media. It's given us media to consume. And if there's one thing that we've accomplished, it's doing just that.
Yeah, here at Total Entertainment,
Entertainment Forever.
we are professional appreciators.
That's true.
of
I'm
media.
Nick.
And I'm Andrew.
And we're here to give you hopefully something that you can appreciate here. We're gonna just run down a few things that we did not get to talk about in length, which was basically most of what we've seen this year, and a few music recommendations as well that we've listened to and figured bared some discussion.
All right, Nick, so do you want to kick off? And what are your favorite movies of this year so far?
Well, as far as favorites are concerned, you know what? You're right. Let's start with favorites, and then we'll go down to the things that are not favorites. Let's start with something that I know you've seen, Under the Silver Lake. And I know you're a fan of this.
That's probably my top movie this year so far.
It's
which
really fucking good.
isn't the highest of praise, given I've seen like 3 movies this year. But
That's true.
I just overall, it's a really solid movie.
And for the record, I'm fairly certain that pretty much all the movies here are either A24 or Disney, because those are the only 2 studios that exist. So,
Right. Oh, we should, no spoilers, I think, when we're discussing these.
yeah. We'll try to keep it spoiler free, and it's gonna be loose. It's gonna be free form. I know you guys are used to the immaculately constructed discussions and deep dives and organized.
It's like research papers.
to take.
We're like scholars
citations
of this stuff.
and all that. I know you're used to that, but today we're kicking back,
Loosey goosey, cutting loose.
taking off the shoes and the socks, just hanging out. Under the Silver Lake, though. What was your favorite part about it? Because I have a few things.
Okay, so it falls into this type of movie that you've actually dubbed stoner noirs.
Stoner noirs.
Like,
Yes, I don't know if that was made up before me.
Two
but
of my other favorite films, The Big Lebowski and Inherent Vice, sort of fall into like the same category.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
trio I would lump together.
Those 3 movies would be a great triple feature if anyone was so inclined to do that.
if you have like a spare 9 hours. The essence of the genre is it's someone totally incapable, just some deadbeat thrust into a situation, some grand conspiracy much larger than them,
Yes.
and they're essentially just totally out of their element.
Yeah,
Usually
and
smoking the dope.
Exactly. And
And
they're smoking the
flailing,
dope, and the
yeah.
plots they get wrapped up in always get more and more confusing as the movie goes on. I would say, those are the elements that are similar about these films, but they also all take place in California.
Yeah.
And it's very strange to me that you're such a big fan of these films, since you don't even like regularly smoke weed.
I think it's cool though.
It is
You
cool.
know,
I mean,
smoking weed's cool. I look
It's
at people
more a concept for you than
smoking
in action.
smoking doobies, taking bong hits, and I'm like, damn, I wish I could do that. But if I did, I would just end up like curled in a ball under a desk somewhere.
Hey, it happens.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no shame in it. I kind of wish that this type of subgenre would expand to other states. I mean, it's a perfect state for that kind of thing. And it really works well in this particular movie, where you're kind of not really in the main area of the Los Angeles, Hollywood, sphere, but you're kind of on the outskirts. You're always on the sort of lower end parts. And you see like the Hollywood sign in the background and stuff, but normally you're dealing with the more gritty elements of this area, and you have Andrew Garfield in it.
Charmingly befuddled. Most of the film.
A terrific performance. Now, I don't think. What do you remember the name of this director? Because that's the one I forgot.
This is the guy who did It Follows.
It Follows.
I don't remember
yes.
his name though.
Yeah, It Follows was obviously a surprise hit, a commercial and critical success, and I guess A24 decided to just let him do whatever. And which follows an amazing pattern of first-time directors getting the follow-up and then doing whatever and then having something like this come out. A product that, while to me very entertaining, I could see alienating some people, I guess, and it has, including A24 itself, who kind of just dumped it on release. It's on Redbox right now, is what I learned today, and I didn't even know that it came out on DVD. So, yeah, they really dumped it, and it's a shame because that means not many people are going to see it. And I think that it does have a lot of value to it. I think the performances are all good. It's a good general vibe. I think that the story has a lot of elements that are kind of just dropped or just sort of there and then not mentioned ever again, and it's kind of weird, but it kind of adds to the whole atmosphere of the film, the whole befuddlement of it all anyway. But it's not the most coherent thing in the world, but that's never really the appeal of these movies anyway. Big Lebowski, its appeal is not its coherence, nor is Inherent Vice.
No, they're just charming.
Yeah,
they're charming movies.
Yeah, they're just really good. You just kind of have to let yourself. You kind of have to just let yourself in. Just kind of experience it. Just have fun. There's some there's some good scenes in it. Kind of separated. I don't want to spoil anything, but there is just random tonal switches that happen that you don't expect. It goes from sort of laid back to horrific on an instant.
Yeah, just like scenes of spontaneous violence.
Yeah. There's also, I think, some commentary thrown in about maybe the whole LA mindset, the whole Hollywood mindset, because that's a very large part of this film. I don't really necessarily know what they were trying to say because I only have seen the film once so far, but it's there, and I think that its inclusion is interesting, and there's possibly another layer of this film that makes it good for a rewatch.
But even if there's not, it's just fun.
It's just fun. It's just a fun movie.
Just a good romp.
It's creative. It's a romp. It doesn't always work, and it's not always the most coherent thing in the world. But like I said, if you give yourself to it, I think you might find some enjoyment, especially if you're a fan of these types of movies, such as the ones that were already mentioned. Yeah, I'd recommend it.
Oh yeah, big recommend. I actually found out rewatching it. David Yao from the Jesus Lizard is actually in this.
He's in it?
Yeah.
Does he play
He's like the homeless king guy.
Oh, he's the homeless king
Yeah.
guy. Okay. I thought he was like the guy. There's a band in the movie that was like Jesus. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. I thought that was him for a second. That would have been good.
No.
Well. But yeah, do you have anything else to say about this thing?
No, just give it a watch. Really charming movie. Like Nick said, don't go into it expecting it to make much sense. Don't go in expecting a really tight script or anything like that.
There's still
just keep an open mind.
Yeah.
The first time I saw it, I had missed the first 40 minutes. And I had only seen the tail end, and I had no idea what was happening. But it was still engrossing enough that I was drawn in. And, going back and watching the first 40 minutes, it didn't make it any more clear for me.
It did not, no.
If anything, it muddied the waters even more. But yeah, still really solid. Probably my favorite movie so far this year.
Yeah. It's not quite my favorite, but it is really good and it's up there. And there's things to latch onto. I don't want to make it sound like it's a completely like incoherent affair. Like there's the characters I think are really cool and interesting, and I think Andrew Garfield actually is a really good anchor for it. Like it kind of rests on his shoulders, and I think he does a good job of making it sort of semi-relatable.
Yeah, well, he's like a cipher for us because he is also bumbling and confused, like the audience.
Andrew Garfield is basically just me, in many ways, and it's fun. It's a good movie.
He's a podcaster.
He's a that guy has definitely had a few failed podcasts under his belts. That character, but give it a watch, guys. High recommend. I would give it a solid 7 out of 10. What about you?
I don't believe in numerical scores.
Oh, right. You're right.
You know what?
They're stupid.
6.2 out of 7.
Oh, shit, dude. That's okay.
Yeah.
All right. Great. So next then we have another movie that's one of my favorites that you have not seen. The movie Rocket Man. All right. Starring the kid from The Kingsman. Whatever his name is, and it's about Elton John, and it's a really fun film. It's I think it bears comparison, obviously, with Bohemian Rhapsody to come out the previous year. I think it does a lot better, at least from what I've seen. I haven't seen all Bohemian Rhapsody, admittedly, and I don't really want to, admittedly, but it really reflects the style of the musician. It does better with the songs. The songs, rather than being incorporated seemingly randomly or in a just tastefully wrong way, like in Bohemian Rhapsody. For instance, an example of the distasteful incorporation of music is the scene where Freddie Mercury is sort of just wandering the club and testing out, kind of experimenting in sexuality. And you know what song's playing?
Which song?
Another One Bites the Dust. Yeah, no. There's nothing like that. I think the music in Rocket Man, it's incorporated in a less diegetic sense, a more fantastical elements. There's a lot of weird scenes where Elton John will like literally turn into a rocket and fly into the sun and explode into fireworks. There's a lot. He will go underwater and then he'll see the child version of himself playing piano underwater wearing scuba gear. There's a lot of stuff like that I think is just really fun and creative and
that
really
seems great. Yeah, it breaks from like a standard like
exactly.
rock biopic.
It's and then because it doesn't really change the mold or anything for these types of films. However, I think it's done in such a the way the music is incorporated is in such a fun way, and there's a lot of musical numbers regarding his songs and stuff, and usually the songs are incorporated in a way like it's kind of like a musical in a way, because these songs are not just randomly dropped in like in most of these biopics. There is sort of a story that they are telling whenever they pop up, whenever the character starts singing it. I think it's done really well. I think there is a lot of good performances, and I think that the emotional payoff at the end kind of helps with some of the more cliched elements that sort of pop up near the beginning. So I like it. I find it to be a touching and an enjoyable romp, and I recommend it. That probably would be maybe a 7.5 to 8 out of 10 for me. But next, I'm going to talk about something else that you have seen. Us. Remember that?
Yes.
You remember Us?
I do.
What'd you think of Us?
What I think Us?
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah. No, I liked
Good
it
movie.
too. I liked it too. It's in my top 10, but that's not saying much. I too, like you, haven't seen that many films. It's good. What'd you like best about Us?
Tim Heidecker.
I
don't know. He was an example of that, where it's like it's still like a serious movie, like it's still like a horror film. It's still saying something, but there's like enough like comedic undercurrent to it.
A lot like Get Out.
I
feel like it's
but it's not like distracting.
Right. Tim Heidecker was somewhat distracting to me a little bit, but only when he turned into like the evil version of himself.
Yeah,
or like the
Heidecker.
doppelganger.
Yeah,
like when he was like he was just sort of very over the top in a way that I thought it was very distracting because these were scenes that were supposed to be scary. I liked it before that though, where he was just like this fucking deadbeat asshole who like hated his wife. That was fun. But him in the rest of the film, I didn't really buy. I thought Lupita Nyong'o's performance was exemplary. She was really, really good playing both these characters. I think that the movie works for the most part. You looked up what the parables are supposed to be, what it's trying to say here.
Yeah, it's essentially just about like inequality and like privilege. As,
yeah.
The people above surface had the privileges not afforded to the people below.
Right.
Even though everything else about them was the same.
Right, which is,
much.
then that is, I figured there was something like that, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it was trying to say with the twist at the end, which we're not going to spoil, but it is interesting that he is going for a class-oriented message in this movie. I think it's... And I think it works just on its own merits as well, even without all that in mind. I think that there's a lot of good cinematography in it, and I think there's a lot of thrilling set pieces. I enjoyed it. I don't think it's as tight as Get Out. I think it's way more. What do you call it? He's definitely going for more.
Yeah.
And there's way more locations and stuff. Get Out basically just took place in the one house. But I think it's Get Out's probably still tighter. I think Us is a really interesting second effort from Peele, and obviously I'm excited to see where he goes next. He's remaking Candyman, I think. Or actually, he's doing that thing where it's like a sequel to the original and ignoring all the other
Is he directing it or is it like producing?
I don't remember. He's involved with a lot of stuff currently.
Yeah, he's doing that Nazi Hunter show for like FX or something.
What?
Yeah, it's just a show about some dude who hunts Nazis.
Well, I'm game.
Then
he's also doing that the Twilight Zone
reboot
thing.
Yeah,
and there's all sorts of other stuff too. And he's all over the
Who would have
place.
thought that like one half of Key and Peele would like be dominating media like this, and not even like comedy.
Way.
Yeah,
In this way, yeah. As a horror movie guy, that's so out of left field. I can't even think of something like this happening so successfully and then it cementing so quickly. Because literally after Get Out came out, it was basically, oh, he's the new horror guy, and there was like no questions asked. But I'm glad because he's a new interesting voice in the genre. And even if I don't maybe like the films as much as everybody else does a lot of the times, I think he's going to be good. It's going to be interesting. And did you have anything else to say about Us?
no,
Oh, okay, great.
yeah.
Well,
actually, just I kind of it's
Let's
just
hear it.
it's just because it seems lately like the horror field's been dominated by like Blumhouse stuff.
A lot of Blumhouse,
where
yeah.
it's just like that really schlocky, not really saying much kind of horror movie.
yeah, it's a
So,
very kind of just straightforward.
yeah, it's cool to like have a more serious director
To have-
sort of like slipping
right.
in actual political undertones or like social
Yeah,
messages
and that
into the
isn't
films.
unheard of in horror, and I do wish sometimes that it was a little more common. It's been a while since that's been very prevalent, but I can feel it coming back with people like him and another director that we'll be talking about later in the night. But you're right, yeah, he is definitely melding the two well in the way like that used to happen with like Invasion of the Body Snatchers or The Shining or any of these other films directed by like very competent directors and are doing good horror, but also there's something else there to bite onto if that's not even your
Yeah,
thing.
like if you compare that to like the 2000s where
The
it was all
2000s
like
was a
torture
fucking
porn
cesspool, man.
or like shitty reboots of old movies or just
Hey, we
it was
watched one
all
of those
schlock.
shitty reboots though, and you enjoyed it. We watched the Texas Chainsaw remake.
That wasn't a shitty
in
reboot.
2000.
That was good.
I mean, by all accounts, it should have been more shittier than it was. But I think it was pretty well done for what it was. I don't think it's as like groundbreaking as the original, but I think
It's solid.
Yeah, it's solid. Opinion of the podcast. Total Entertainment Forever fully endorses the 2003 remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, if you have not seen it. But I agree completely, Andrew. As on point as always. Let's move on to... You know what? Let's just get these two things out of the way. The two superhero movies that we have not discussed. The first one... I'll say this one first because I like it better. Shazam was a surprise to me. I saw it not expecting to care for it very much. Shazam rules. It it opens. You seem very surprised, but let me explain myself here.
No, you're a shill for these things. I don't know why I made a surprise face. That should have been
No,
totally
no, no.
expected.
I'm not a shill because I will. You know me. I will put forward legitimate criticisms when I think the films are when they're fit to criticize. I criticized that new Spider-Man movie, which I'll touch on in a moment, as you know. But Shazam is different in the sense that it doesn't feel as God, I don't even know how would you describe the feeling of all these new sort of assembly line
very
Marvel
flat.
products. Yeah, I mean,
There's nothing like unique about them.
there's
They're very
like
cut and
there
paste.
will be some uniqueness occasionally shining through, but for the most part, you know what you're expecting, and like the formula to me is so like cut and dry that you very rarely do any of these kinds of films surprise me or emotionally invest me more than the next one.
It's just like with the OG Mortal Kombat, where the characters were like the exact same model, just palette swapped. It's like that with these superhero movies.
Exactly. Now,
Like the movie's the same, the heroes just
right. And I will say that when Marvel first did this interconnected universe thing, that it was like a ballsy thing that nobody else has really tried in the same way, and there has been really good, there's been good stuff to come out of it. I'll still say that Endgame is fairly ambitious and pretty much succeeds in what it's trying to do, but I kind of miss the days of old where these films were more self-contained and were more focused on character and on directorial style, and I feel like Shazam delivers in that. Before I watched it, the reason I even wanted to see it at all was because people compare it to the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, and I think those comparisons are completely valid. I think that something that this David Sandberg guy does, who, like Sam Raimi, just directed a few horror films previous to this. I don't really know how he got this job, but he did, and I'm glad he did, because he, like Sam Raimi, he kind of incorporates his experience with horror into the film in certain aspects. Like the villain, played by Mark Strong, summons demons to murder an entire office of a board of directors, kind of similar to how the Green Goblin blows up the board of directors in the first Spider-Man movie. Do you remember that?
Sounds like a hero to me.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, I don't think you were supposed to feel bad for any of these people because they are just eviscerated. But there's a lot of stuff like that kind of thrown in. And then not only do we have the kind of horror elements, and we have the elements of the kind of Goonies type stuff. It's the children connecting. The kid from It is in it. The one that was the one that was like a germaphobe. Do you remember what I'm talking about? Yeah. That kid's in it, and good. The kids are all they're. Obviously, with child performances is going to be kind of hit and miss, and they are hit and miss, but to me, they're written in a way that's charming enough. And the villain is also written in a way, and this I was not expecting. The villain is also pretty good. You get his motivations. The action is decent. It's not the best part. Really, it's just it's a more laid back version of what we've seen before, and it's in the DC universe. There's references to Batman, Superman, and the like, but it's done in a way where it doesn't distract from the movie itself. It doesn't distract from the scenes. It doesn't distract from the characters. It's done in a way where I feel like more of these movies should go for, if you're gonna have the interconnected elements. But there's just a lot of fun bits in it. There's great stuff like the kid having criminals shoot him in the face to go viral, asking the criminal to and then him botching a mugging rescue because the woman already pepper sprayed him, and then he brutalized this criminal that was already pepper sprayed. It's a good movie, and I really think that if you're a fan of some of the older 2000s era superhero films and you're looking for a little something that's similar to that, then I think this will scratch that itch. But on the inverse of that, we have Spider-Man: Far From Home, a movie that I think kind of in some ways suffers from all the things that I was talking about, to where the directorial style is very bland. I do like the characters are fine, all the teen romance stuff is fine, like in the original, but it's very bogged down by the previous film, and they have to sort of scramble to sort of catch us up to how the world was after all that, and I don't really have much to say about it. I think it's kind of grown on me a little bit, because when we first talked about it, I made it sound like I hated it.
Yeah.
But
slog,
yeah, I don't hate it. Like the action is actually pretty good. Jake Gyllenhaal's good. I originally had a problem with him being another like guy that was like affected by Tony Stark's business practices,
just like the Vulture in the
just like the Vulture.
movie, yeah.
But the Vulture I preferred because I guess in some way we're supposed to sympathize with him, and that was I think a really good angle for a villain. And this one he's just like an asshole.
We stand for Michael Keaton.
We stand for he's great, and Jake Gyllenhaal's good, and he's just like a demented moron, like asshole who's just a glory hound, which is I guess pretty similar to that character in the comics, so it doesn't really bother me that much. But it's fine. The movie's fine. I don't really have much to say about it.
I would like to digress then.
Yes, go on.
Jake Gyllenhaal in another movie we talked about. I don't remember if I brought this up, but when we discussed the Velvet Buzzsaw,
we did briefly.
We did. Did I mention Jake Gyllenhaal's ass? Because there was a whole
I'd be
hoopla
shocked if you didn't.
About his ass. I want to say
what was the hoopla?
His ass was in it. People were excited to see Jake Gyllenhaal's ass.
Are we telling? Has he not shown his ass in any other films?
I don't think so.
Wait, not in Brokeback Mountain or anything?
No, I just watched it recently.
No, huh?
No
That's
ass
surprising.
in that at all.
That is shocking.
Yeah.
I thought I remembered.
But the point is, I want to get at. Not a big fan of Jake Gyllenhaal's ass.
Oh, well, what's your criticism of Jake Gyllenhaal's ass,
It's too toned.
Andrew?
It's too toned. I don't like toned asses. It's just, I like girth, like a certain thickness. I don't need an ass to be defined. Jake Gyllenhaal, too fit, not a fan of his ass. What? Not a fan of that movie.
No. I agree with you there. I don't know.
I mean, there was like a certain thrill, I guess.
He was fucking
like he's a really handsome dude.
He was built in that. Yeah, he was cool. He was really built in that.
Just as far as asses go.
Yeah.
Didn't do much for me.
That's a shame. I'm a different strokes for different folks. I'm like, okay, I appreciate all types of asses. All right, I've all toned, not toned, flabby, not flabby. I like with ice cream. Sometimes you want a different flavor for the day, but I just actually want to say something real quick about Spider-Man. Spider-Man gets glasses where he can drone bomb people freely. Tony Stark gives him glasses after his death where he's able to drone bomb people, and he almost does it. And it's weird, and there's a lot of weird plot elements. It's all coming back to me, actually. There's a lot of weird plot elements that really, because I was trying to remember what I didn't like about
Jake
this.
Gyllenhaal's ass is your muse. Like, thinking about it has, like, Jimmy Neutron brain blast.
Yeah, it did, yes. It's like the word Shazam in the movie Shazam. Suddenly, I say Jake Gyllenhaal's ass, and then suddenly my brain starts working again. But yeah, no, he gets glasses where you can basically use it's very weird. You can use a satellite to like look up anyone's information and like drone bomb people, and then Jake Gyllenhaal is like, oh god, I'm not gonna spoil it. Like, well, actually, I'm gonna spoil this part because everyone knows that he's the villain, unless you're like, I don't know, a baby. After like 2 conversations with him, Spider-Man, and this is a classic Spider-Man thing. I don't mind this, that he's like tired of doing it. He just wants to he just wants to get with the girl. He's tired of all this stuff happening. He's tired of all these world-ending events. Nick Fury is bullying him. But he finds out that Tony Stark gives him these glasses that basically gives him the power of multiple governments. And then after 2 conversations with the character of Mysterio, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, and yes, he's charming and all, he just gives him the glasses. He's like, you know what? Hey, you can have these. and yeah, that's what a ridiculously stupid thing to do. I think that one plot point with those glasses basically brought the film down by a lot because of its ethical implications and because of
Peter Parker's supposed to be smart.
Exactly. It's a ridiculous plot leap. There's also a few other contrived things like oh god, okay, let me bring up one other thing I didn't like about this. There's this stupid element that's like this love triangle with this one character who we meet in this movie, who's like this handsome Asian fellow, and there's absolutely nothing else to him. Him and the MJ character have a repartee, and Peter Parker doesn't like that. And then at one point, Peter Parker is like changing into something because one of the secret agents from S.H.I.E.L.D. is asking him to, and he is doing this in the middle of a bar, and he's like taking off his pants with this girl present, and then this guy happens to walk in, takes a picture. It's one of those like very contrived things where you see somebody in a compromising situation, but this was such a I still don't understand why it happened, and it just this whole plot element was not needed. This whole love triangle thing was not needed, and there was no need for Peter Parker to almost drone bomb him. There was no need for any of it. And yeah, that's my review of Spider-Man Far From Home. But something else you've seen. Those are basically... No. I have one more favorite, and then we're going into good to not good territory. My last favorites. Well, you know what? Let's talk about something you've seen first, and then we'll get to my last favorite. The Beach Bum. Do you remember that?
I do.
I remember it as well.
Yeah, good.
It was good.
That makes talking about it much easier. That
Honestly,
we both remember it.
Yeah, it does. It does. It really.
I'm glad
takes
I
off
don't
the
have
weight.
to read the plot points off of Wikipedia to have this conversation.
That would be really embarrassing. Yeah, it was good. I mean, this film is interesting. I would not say that it is breaking any new ground for Harmony Korine or for anything else.
It's actually really mild for him.
It
Friend
is.
of the pod, Harmony Korine.
Who we mentioned on many occasions, and he's a really interesting guy. And I think there is a lot of him in this film. You see kind of glimpses of his personal philosophy in this film, and I do like that. And I like a lot of the set pieces. I like a lot of the performances. It's just that there's something about it that just didn't quite. I don't think I was ever emotionally invested.
No,
I think which is a huge
really
problem.
Nothing to latch onto.
Yeah, because
everyone in here is just sort of unlikable.
They kind of are. I mean, Matthew McConaughey.
He's charming.
He's charming, but he is a complete.
I can't relate at all to this character.
No, that's true. Because he is a character that's completely freed from any kind of consequences or responsibility, which is awesome.
Very cool. I'm jealous. If anything.
Yeah, no. It's.
I just want to
I'm not
smoke
saying
weed
I'm
or
not,
write poetry.
Oh no, I would love
cool.
that.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to morally morally judge him or anything.
Again, smoking weed is very cool.
It is. That's another thing that this podcast endorses: smoking weed. But his character, though, he has absolutely no. He just does things a lot, and he never pays for anything he does, and it's very difficult for him to do this over and over, and then for me to be invested in a story and be worried for him and all that kind of thing, because there's multiple scenes where he just knocks people into the water for no reason and just laughs. There's that scene where him and Zac Efron rob that guy in the wheelchair.
Yeah.
They smash his head with a bottle and take his wallet, and there's absolutely no consequence. And this is after them breaking out of rehab, and they're listening to Creed and having a good. And the movie
that's very much in line with Harmony Korine movies, though.
It is. Yes.
There's no karma in these films.
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
You
just kind of see these characters for what they are, and that's what I appreciate for this. And sometimes he's saying a little something extra. I feel like Spring Breakers, there's some kind of layer of irony or judgment to that film that I feel like a lot of his other movies lack. But in this one, it's just back to basics, because nobody is ever judged for what they do here, and for most of the time they're just having a good time, and we're having a good time too watching it. It's not a particularly memorable experience, but I think it's a really fun one.
Yeah, the highlight of this is definitely the cast. Everyone in this kills it.
The cast is fucking
Matthew
rocking.
McConaughey continues doing his thing. He's essentially just his character from Dazed and
Very
Confused,
exaggerated version
up
of
to
himself.
12.
Yeah. I loved
Jonah Hill and his weird Louisiana plantation accent.
Well, yeah, it was so bizarre, and it was but he was just going for it, and I appreciated it.
Martin
Snoop Dogg
Lawrence.
just playing himself.
Oh yeah.
Oh god, Martin Lawrence.
His cocaine addicted parents.
Martin Lawrence, actually, I think his bit was my favorite part, where he just was he was just the captain of this dilapidated ferry, where he had he was giving people tours, and he was just obsessed with dolphins, and he goes to swim with dolphins, but they're not dolphins, they're sharks. And I'm not going to spoil it from there, but
Zac Efron,
absolutely hilarious in this. Zac Efron also is hilarious.
Grade A facial hair.
I love his face. I love his whole look. His weird youth pasture, but turned up again.
It's like an EDM guy. Yeah,
EDM youth pasture.
Big Creed
guy.
fan.
Big Creed fan, but also his weird twisted version of Christian philosophy just allows him to do whatever he wants and not pay the consequences. But it is it's a Harmony Korine film. You get a lot of wacky characters. You get and you get a lot of things happening with not much in the way of plot or through line or emotional investment. And if that's your thing, I highly recommend it. And if it's not, probably don't watch it. What can I say?
Yeah, that's totally fair.
Yeah.
You just summed up all of his films.
Honestly, yeah. He's interesting, though. God, he is weird. You ever hear about the thing with David Letterman? He was on David Letterman multiple times, and Letterman liked the guy because he kept bringing him on. He was always so weird in the interviews. I think he was on psychedelics during at least a few of them, but eventually David Letterman had to stop bringing him on because he apparently was in the dressing room going through Meryl Streep's purse. And then Letterman was like, okay, maybe that's enough of this. Maybe he's gone too far this time. But that just adds to his character to me. Like that's charming to me. That's a charming crime.
He's a hoot. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just a hoot. And
it's nice someone in Hollywood with like actual character, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. And he's an interesting figure, and I hope, because he's now kind of out of the Hollywood limelight. He doesn't really make films unless he wants to anymore. He's mostly doing a lot of painting, and he has a family now. Yeah. He can do whatever he wants. Yeah, hopefully he keeps making these things though, and hopefully he makes something that tops Spring Breakers, which I feel like is his best film from what I've seen. What do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely Spring Breakers.
Oh yeah, no.
Far and away.
I mean, that's his most polished film. It has all of his trappings, but also has like a few other elements thrown in, and it looks great. It's just a hypnotizing looking film. It's good. But you know what? Enough about Harmony Korine. Let's move on to another director on the up and up. Well, Harmony Korine's not on the up and up anymore. But Ari Aster's Midsommar, a movie you unfortunately could not make, but I saw with some other people, and we all had an interesting experience. Both because of the ridiculous audience and because the movie itself is a ride. It's a good movie. It's really good. It's in my top 3 this year. I don't know if I like it better than Hereditary, which I know you didn't care for Hereditary as much as I did. But I thought the only reason why I think Hereditary is better is because the character dynamics were a little more believable, and I feel like the payoff was a little bit better. As a horror fan, I thought the payoff of Hereditary really worked. Like the last third, which is all just like the traditional, well, not totally traditional, but semi-traditional spook house elements. I feel like all that was done really well. And I feel like the build-up, the really emotionally harrowing build-up of that movie worked really well with the sort of more traditionally spook house climax. In this film, the characters, while they are good and well acted, they're especially with the main couple, especially with the girl who played the main girl. I wish I remembered her name. I wish I wrote it down, but she's terrific in this, and it's a wonderful performance. And they are very believable. I would say the side characters are all a little bit thin. And that is a little bit of an issue because that leaves us not caring at all about what happens to them, at least in my case. But I feel also like the climax is just not as, just harrowing and not as suspenseful. And maybe it wasn't even trying to go for that, but the Hereditary one was just more satisfied. It just left me in a more satisfied state somehow. And it's not that the ending of Midsommar is bad. I think it's actually really good and interesting. I think it's a combination of kind of horrifying but also empowering in some ways, because this movie is basically it's about relationships, and it's about it's about family, and it's about a lot of other stuff. And I feel like the denouement of the film is pretty satisfying, but I just don't think it it's as extreme as it needs to be in order to sort of justify the very, very deliberate buildup. And it is very deliberate. But I do think it works. I think it's well shot. The music is terrific, and it really, there's a lot of terrific stuff to glean from it. I don't want to spoil it, obviously, and also it's interesting that he's releasing a 3-hour cut.
Interesting. How long was the theatrical?
The theatrical, I think, is 2 hours, 20 minutes, something like that. So I'm wondering if maybe this will improve the pacing, because that's a little bit of an issue. It wasn't a huge thing for me, but I could see how people would not like it.
Is it too slow, or?
There are points where it's in the way it's paced, you think something's going to happen, it doesn't, and then you're just going through a few other scenes of people talking in a field. And there's a few instances of that, but even then, there's still a lot of stuff scattered in.
An extra 40 minutes, that's extreme.
Yeah, it is extreme. I'm wondering what they're going to add, because I don't know if it's going to make the movie better or what. We'll see. I mean, I'll fucking watch it if it releases near me, but it's good. It's definitely really good. There's some really cool stuff they do with how they depict mushroom trips, which is a drug. Psychedelic trips are a somewhat of an element of this film, and the way they depict it is kind of interesting. It's very accurate to life.
That's good, because like in a lot of films, they just like play up the like theatrics. They make it really cartoony. It's not at all like
they do it
true to
right. Which I understand to an extent why you want to do it, because it's a movie.
It's just more entertaining.
It's cinematic,
because like actual mushroom trips, it's a lot of sitting.
Exactly.
Like it's a lot of staring. It's
It's not going to be like fucking Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of that. I mean, occasionally there will be like, the elements of a mushroom trip where you're like, oh man, what's that? What's going on? That kind of thing.
One day, not now, but one day we'll have to go into details of our unfortunate trip in the woods.
Oh god, yeah, that's that. Speaking of harrowing tales, that's one. But they actually do depict it pretty accurately. Like the techniques they do for like the sort of like the pulsating of the images and stuff is really cool and interesting, and pretty subtle and stuff. And it's a movie that I highly enjoyed, and I feel like I would probably get maybe even more out of the second time around, and really after the initial viewing. But we'll see. Hopefully you see it soon, Andrew, because I'd be curious to hear what you think about. Yeah, I'm curious to think, but I'm curious. We'll see, because your opinions about Hereditary, I think, are interesting, and I think are shared by a lot of people. And I'm wondering how something like this, whether it'll fare better or worse for someone like you who thought just Hereditary that was okay, right?
Yeah,
right. Anyway, next up we have. Oh, I think we're down to our last one here. So this is a movie we've also both seen. And this is a movie that is also released by A24. And it's a movie called High Life. And do you remember the name of this director?
Claire Denis.
Yes, Claire Denis. A director who I hear about a lot in the sort of cinema snob circles. I have not seen any of her films. This was a first experience.
This is also her first film in English.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, she's French, so up to this point, all the movies.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, all the it's like you said before. This film has all the trappings of of a European movie and all the strengths and weaknesses that comes with such a thing. But let's hear what you thought about High Life.
All right. So when I say something is very European in terms of film, I mean it's very slow and it's often confusing or unnerving. And this is all three of those in not so equal parts. It's very, very slow. But the moments where something actually does happen, they're far and in between, but it's good enough you keep going, hoping for more of the same.
Right. And there's a handful of ideas. And let me just say that I didn't care for this film.
It was not great.
Yeah, there are a handful of ideas and sequences that I think are interesting. And I think it has a pretty decent cast, or at least for the people that I know are in it. Like Robert Pattinson, one of my guys, he's in it. And actually,
Andre 3000's in it.
Andre, which is so weird to me. Apparently, she saw that movie where he played Jimi Hendrix and was like, "Oh, I want that guy." That girl Mia Goth is in it. Who
she was in Suspiria?
She's in the Suspiria remake, and she was also in A Cure for Wellness. So she's
all about this weird shit.
She's about the weird shit. She's like a weird shit scream queen.
She was like with Shia LaBeouf, so it makes sense.
Of course. Oh god, that makes all too much sense. You know what her full name is, by the way? Oh, you're gonna love this. Her full name is Mia Gypsy Mello da Silva Goth.
Yeah, so this is right up her alley then. Yeah, she was born for this type of film.
Yeah, no, and she has a good look to her. I still want to see that Suspiria remake. I'm interested in seeing it. But yeah, the movie itself, pacing wise, is all over the place. It does not work in that sense, I think, at all. And I don't think they were even trying.
No, I think it was a deliberate choice.
Right, yeah. I don't know if it was supposed to reflect the mood of the characters in it. But
it did not make for a pleasant viewing experience.
And I guess the main concept of the film, very quickly, is just that there's a bunch of prisoners that are put into this space program where they fly into I guess the main mission is to fly out of the solar system to get some kind of
information about a black hole.
Yeah, get some information about a black hole, which will lead to something. That's really all I can grasp here. There's a lot of other cutaways to there's one cutaway to a random couple on a train. I don't remember if those characters ever return.
Okay, so it wasn't a couple. It was a scientist being interviewed, giving his opinion
okay.
about the trip to space.
Right. Yeah, and I knew it was like related in that sense
Yeah.
that they were talking about the mission, but I just didn't know who those
But
characters
like-
were. And there's no like establishing moments for any of these characters. You don't really know what they're about. You know they're criminals, and you can see that a lot of them are violent. However, you don't get a whole lot else about them. One thing I'll say about the exact opposite type of movie, a movie like Shazam, perhaps that's a little too economical with its character establishments, where you go into the room and then suddenly everyone is doing their thing, and you know, okay, that character's about that. That character's a gamer. That character's this. That character is a fuddy-duddy, blah blah blah. You get nothing here.
Yeah, they're not.
Absolutely. I could not describe.
You get
this.
like their names,
Yeah.
and that's it. Everyone's very flat.
Yeah. And again, that very well may be a deliberate choice.
Yeah,
but
it's
I
very
feel
interesting though, because if that's the case, I
Yeah.
don't know what this movie was going for.
I really
like
don't
it
know
wasn't
either.
like a character study,
No,
because
it
you
wasn't.
don't know anything about these characters. I don't think it was really trying to say anything. Like I didn't get anything
I think
from this
it
movie.
was trying to say something about maybe human biology or something. I really don't
If
know, because
so, it was a very vague statement.
it was it probably was. And yeah, it just, there's really not a whole lot to grasp onto here.
The
And
visuals are nice.
there are some nice visuals, although I would say that those are like, there's not like enough of that to
No.
keep me involved. Because a movie like what's Under the Skin, a movie that's kind of similar in
It's like
vibes.
a gorgeous movie though. Yeah.
What?
It's a gorgeous movie.
It's a gorgeous movie.
Yeah.
It's very consistently interesting visually, even when the movie is not that, we'll say, clear about what's happening in it. So you have to kind of put those things together in your head. But it is very, like you said, visually gorgeous. The music is very invigorating the whole way through, in my opinion. And that isn't the case with this. And unfortunately, it just ends up not being, what I hoped it would watching the trailer, because that trailer is pretty neat.
Yeah, this movie is for people snobbier than us.
I would say so. And even then, it seemed like a lot of those people were a little disappointed as well. I think there's a great movie in here. I think there could have been anyway. And it just wasn't, its potential was not reached, unfortunately. And yeah, that's it. I mean, although, you know what? I'm just going to, quick aside. A quick clown corner, actually. Robert Pattinson is going to be a good Batman.
He's going to crush it.
And there's nothing you fucks could do about it. There's nothing you lily-livered, stuck in 2008 mentally motherfuckers can do about it. He's
That's
going to be
it. The
he's
only
gonna be
people
great.
criticizing this selection are people who only know him from Twilight and have ignored
Exactly.
everything he's done
How-
since
I
then.
don't understand how people could be so mentally stuck in like a decade ago.
These people aren't film fans,
No,
right? They're superhero
they haven't
fans.
seen Good Time.
They're not even like superhero fans.
No.
I don't know what they are. They're fucking nerds. You guys
They're
are nerds. Get over yourself.
They haven't seen Cosmopolis. They haven't seen Good Time. They haven't seen the various times where Pattinson has obviously shown some kind of acting range and has shown like a commitment to his performances. His performance in Good Time is fucking ferocious. It's amazing. I love that performance. And in fact, I would say I was kind of an apologist for him even when he was in Twilight, because I saw that movie Remember Me, which is a terrible film, but he is good in it. This includes my coworkers who I got in an argument with about this very subject, and they're certainly not listening to this. Just get over it. Just fucking, you're not gonna boycott the film. You're not gonna do any of that. What you're saying you're gonna do, you're not gonna do shit.
And
you're gonna
even
watch
if he's
you're gonna
horrible-
eat the slop, you fucking oinkers.
Even if he's bad,
Yeah.
he'll be better than Ben Affleck.
I don't even think Ben Affleck. Okay, I don't think he was that bad. At least he wasn't that bad in Batman v Superman, where like the angle they were going for the character, I think he did well in.
Oh, okay.
I would say that he did start to get bad in the Justice League film, where there was no longer an angle for the character, and he was just like a weird joke giver, like buffoon. Just like buffoonery was abound. He
I like
was
how
just
in
being
the
knocked
span
around.
of like two films, you go from branding people to being a buffoon, and like how you make it sound is just like comic
It really
fodder.
just shows how much they really thought about this universe and how coherent like the whole thing was. They really just put a lot of plans into it. They mapped the whole thing out. So they're like, all right, in this movie he's going to be like a murderer. He's gonna quote Dick Cheney. He's gonna brand people, which is not a thing that has ever happened in the comic books. And then 2 movies from now, he's gonna be
Adam West.
He's essentially Adam West. There is a scene in Justice League where he's knocked around and and he recounts that "Do you bleed" thing from Batman v Superman, but he says, "Yep, definitely bleeding." It's Justice League is such a fucking disaster. It's so stupid. God. Anyway. Oh God, now I'm just remembering Justice League. Now I'm stuck in that mode. I think those are all the movies, though. Did you have some?
I have a couple. I have a couple here.
Please keep them going.
Speaking of buffoonery, there's a movie I watched not that long ago, and I enjoyed, and it's sort of this ilk, at this superhero ilk. I watched the new Hellboy.
You watched that?
I did, and I liked it a lot.
Oh my God!
It was schlock. It was not a great movie.
Well, what did you like about it? Let's hear that first of all, because I have not heard anything good about this from anyone.
If you go into this expecting anything similar to the Del Toro films, you're going to be disappointed. This has none of the emotional depth of
none
those
of the
films.
artistic prowess
Nothing
involved
like
with
that.
the character designs and story and all that.
But
and character dynamics.
It's fun. It's a fun fucking movie. It is character. It's really fun watching Dave Harbour corn it up underneath all the makeup and just punch the shit out of things.
I've seen some clips of him as Hellboy, and it seems very similar to Ron Perlman's version. In my opinion, anyway, just from what I've seen.
But I don't know. I like he's a bit of a wisecracker. There are moments, and this is weird. There are moments where he gives me vibes very similar to Joaquin Phoenix in Inherent Vice.
What the fuck are you talking about?
It's like this very sort of and it's not like the entire performance. It's just some lines. It's like the delivery. It's like sort of this spaced out sort of. It's really weird. But this movie, it's gory. And
that is the one thing that I was initially a little bit interested in. Yeah, it's going to be gory,
it's violent. It's really good if you go into it expecting that and wanting something like that. It's just like a balls to the walls movie.
Should you compare it to the original Blade or something?
Yeah, actually, that would work really good. Ian McShane is in it. He's really great. Mila Djokovic is the villain, and I don't think she gets enough to do. But when
she seemed like one of those silent presence-driven villains, right?
No,
really,
not really. It's just she's not.
I just didn't hear her say anything in the trailers.
To really get any. But what she's given, it's good. It's over the top. It's theatrical.
Right. I mean,
I like that a lot. And I feel like this movie, it was never going to be well received, but I don't think because it bombed.
It did. It nobody saw it.
No, which I think sort of owes to maybe the oversaturation of these sort of comic movies.
It's possible, but at the same time, I just don't know if people were responding to it.
No, exactly that, because of the Del Toro films. Nobody wanted a reboot. Everybody wanted a third Del Toro film.
Right.
And that's how I felt when they announced this. I was pissed. I didn't ask for this shit, but I went in and I gave it a chance, and it was a good movie.
Okay. Well, it's certainly a hot take.
Amendum. It was not a good movie. It was an entertaining movie.
All right. I mean, that's good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
And yeah, it really sucks that it bombed because
were there some sequel baits?
There were, but it wasn't in an obvious way, where they're angling for an expanded universe. They definitely left it open.
There wasn't a Super Mario Brothers at the end thing where it's Mario, you're not gonna believe this.
No, there were two stingers though, which I think was bold. Yeah.
God, that is bold. Fuck the balls on these people.
Yeah. I liked it.
Interesting. Okay.
It was just so if you want something with vampire luchadors and Thomas Hayden Church branding people with
Thomas
a lobster
Hayden
claw.
Church is in this?
Yeah. Oh. He temporarily, and his whole thing, he's a character from the comics called the Lobster or something.
That's the thing. I need to read a little more of the comics.
No, the comics are great.
Yeah, because
if anything, this has inspired me to go back and revisit those. Right, because this is a lot more similar to the comics than the Del Toro movies.
Yeah, I know the Del Toro movies are definitely different tonally and visually as well. So, okay, maybe I'll watch it. We'll see. I'll give it a shot. I'll give anything a fucking shot. I don't get it. I have no standards. Go on.
And then on the flip, from something lowbrow to something a little more high art, we have the favorite, Yorgos Lanthimos, one of my favorite directors. Made The Lobster, one of my favorite movies. Another distinctly European film.
Oh, absolutely.
If you've seen his previous films, This is a little bit different in that it's not as idiosyncratic because if you've seen his films, you know he makes his actors act in a very
deadpan,
specific way. It's deadpan. Like the way they deliver their speech is very abnormal. Just like the way they carry themselves. Yeah,
it's
like,
inhuman,
not
and it gives you.
If you met somebody talking like this in real life, I would assume they were like lobotomized.
You assume it was one of the Kennedys.
Yeah. Jesus. But this, it's a period piece. It's a historical drama about one of the queens of England. I don't know. There are so many of the fucking things, and
there certainly were.
It's two characters. One, Rachel Weisz, who kills it in this. Absolutely, because she's been going through a bit of a career renaissance, and I'm very glad to see it.
Good for her.
And
she's great. She's
Emma Stone also in this.
Yeah.
And it's them competing for the affection of the incompetent Queen of England, Olivia Colman. Also, the whole cast in this is very good as well.
And they are allowed to act a little more human in this.
Yeah, they're given a lot more range than in his previous films. But it looks really great.
Absolutely.
In comparison, if you've seen Marie Antoinette, it's like that, but sad.
It's a sad Marie Antoinette. Interesting.
Yeah, just in terms of like the set pieces, how ornate they are, like how accurate they are historically. And so another really solid movie from him.
Yeah, I was really
a lot more accessible
surprised
than the old stuff.
Which makes sense. That's probably why I got all the Oscar buzz. I was still pleasantly surprised that he got Oscar buzz so soon into his career. Usually these kind of directors don't.
Oh, he's been going for a while.
Really?
Like in Greece.
Oh, yeah.
Because remember he did like Dogtooth and then some other films in Greek. And then,
honestly, I thought it was just Dogtooth, and then it was
there were
The
I think
Lobster.
one or two more.
Oh, okay.
That I have not seen yet, but
Still, though, a director like him getting mainstream notoriety is commendable, and I hope that's like a start of some kind of trend. And I hope that he continues to make his movies, because even if I am not as big a fan as you are, I do find them interesting.
He's got a really unique vision.
He's unique.
No one's out here doing this shit.
He is unique, and nobody is out there using Colin Farrell this way.
It's a shame.
Yeah,
like Colin Farrell has depth.
He does.
That we're not letting him.
I mean, he's
he's
sort of like, I guess, in the middle of some kind of career renaissance too. He's sort of just working with directors now that he feels would be interesting. I know I told you about this, but let's just talk briefly about his sex tape.
Haven't watched it.
Oh, you haven't? I have.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
Is it?
He looks like Bullseye in it.
Oh, good.
Which is like his most aesthetically pleasing look, I think.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see him in it doing his thing.
Here's a fun segment.
Yeah.
We should do like a ranking of celebrity sex tapes.
I would say this one.
Not now.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's going to be like a whole episode.
God, we could.
Because there's a long history of this.
There is a lot, yeah. Oh, how much of that do you think is an invasion of privacy?
I mean, we're certainly not classy for doing it.
That's true.
But it's already out there. I mean, it's not like we're hunting it down. We're not leaking the video ourselves.
That's true. The videos are already out there. In fact, I think once we do this, we should just encourage people to not watch them.
No, we're watching it so you don't have
exactly.
to. So you don't have to feel like the sort of great,
like the icky voyeurs that we are.
Feeling. Yeah, we're biting this bullet for you.
Absolutely, as always, for the viewers. But yeah, no, that's a good idea. We'll keep that in the back burner. But yeah, no, Colin Farrell's interesting, and I'm glad that he got over his alcoholism, and which was a thing. He apparently reportedly did not remember he doesn't remember much about the movie Miami Vice because he was completely trashed.
Oh, he's just in character.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. He was basically that. Did you hear that Miami Vice apparently inspired Harmony Korine to make Spring Breakers?
I didn't know that.
That movie, anyway.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I think
the fashion and the
fashion,
the heavy cocaine use.
It's also like the kind of, I guess, vibes of that movie because
the movie itself.
The movie itself.
Oh, okay. I thought you
meant
no.
Like
it was
the movie. It was
specifically
the Michael Mann movie, Miami Vice, because the vibes are just very. What do you call it? How would you describe the vibes of Spring Breaker?
They're really overwhelming. It's an overwhelming movie.
They're kind of ethereal, but also haunting.
It's abrasive. I would say.
It's abrasive. Yeah. I mean, there's it kind of switches because there's moments where it's like very ethereal, and then there are moments where it's like just threatening. And Miami Vice is kind of similar in that way. The movie, Michael Mann movie. Plus, it's like shot on digital video, which was very different at the time, and it made the Miami city kind of look weird and dreamlike. The way it was shot, but I don't know how we started talking about that. You know what?
I got one more movie.
Yeah, okay.
I got one more movie.
Moving on from Miami Vice, which we also recommend here, is what?
To Rolling Thunder review, a Bob Dylan story.
That's
by
right.
Martin Scorsese.
How was that?
That
because I was interested in watching it.
It was really good.
All right.
So it's not like a biopic, which I was expecting. Well, not
Really?
even a biopic.
I thought it was like a story of type thing.
That's what I meant. Yes,
Yeah,
I was expecting something like that. But what it is it's concert footage interspersed with a lot of leftover footage from this movie that Bob Dylan shot himself.
Oh, really?
Over the course of this tour.
Okay.
That was like this 232-minute, like, critically panned film. That it had like dramatic bits and it had concert footage and it was a whole big thing. And so this Rolling Thunder review, a Bob Dylan story by Martin Scorsese.
Yeah.
It's full title. It's just that. Like, it's the leftover footage. It's Bob Dylan and Patti Smith and Allen Ginsberg putzing around behind the scenes of the concert. Yeah. And it's interspersed with some really good live performances. He's surprisingly good live back then. Like, I never expected much.
That would have been like decades ago.
Yeah, this was 70s, I think.
Right, yeah. I could see him being pretty good live back then. Right now, I hear his concerts are just like just dreadful.
Yeah.
Just a fucking slog.
I still regret not going to see him.
Yeah, I mean, no disrespect to the man. Like, he's done so much over his career, and he's obviously cemented his place in history. Like, I could see him. If I were in his position, I don't think I would try.
No.
What the fuck motivation do I have to try?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't even say
Frank
he's not
Sinatra
trying.
cover albums.
So his thing now, like the live performances, they're not even bad. But what the thing is he takes the songs and he plays them in like a different way than he used to. So he's just not giving like the fan service, which I get, because if you've been playing the same song for 50 years, you're not going to do it like rote. You know, you're going to mix it up.
I guess not trying was the wrong. I guess just not caring.
Giving a fuck.
Yeah,
remember when he won like the Nobel Prize and then they couldn't contact him to tell him? Like, it took like 3 days for them to like track down Bob Dylan and give him the Nobel Prize.
Bob Dylan's really hermit energy these days.
Yeah,
and,
but he comes off as like a really, even now, like a really charming guy, like still like very well spoken. You know, he's not as old as I thought he was.
How old is he?
I think he's like his mid to late 70s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well. But yeah, it was a really good movie. Sharon Stone is in it temporarily.
Sharon Stone.
Yeah, and I found out some of the movie is actually like fictionalized. So like there are fictional characters. Sharon Stone's in it like as a fictionalized version of herself. Still looking really good, by the way. Unrelated. But yeah, I recommend it if you're a Bob Dylan fan. I recommend it even if you're not. It's still really entertaining. And it might turn you into one. I feel like Bob does not get the respect he deserves amongst our age group.
You think so?
I think so.
I mean, you know what? Amongst our age group, I can buy that. Yeah.
Not even being like one of those guys who are like, there's been no good music made past the 70s. Because I'm definitely not.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
No old heads here.
But Bob Dylan holds up.
I would say yes. He does
more so than most people.
I mean, I could see how I could see how his like lyricism could be something to get used to. His voice could be something to get used to, but like he is definitely like there's a reason why he's such a seminal artist, and I think that's he has a lot of good songs and a lot of good albums. And yeah, I mean, if you haven't tried any of them, definitely listen to them. I agree.
Good. So
those were the movies.
We're done with movie. We're moving on to music.
Half the year, and those were the movies we saw. Wow. Yeah, let's move right into music, man.
Again, I know we hammer on this a lot, but rip Movie Pass. Like, that's the reason I haven't seen.
I was talking with a mutual friend of ours, and she is still using Movie Pass.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah. $10 a month.
So
She's a real one.
What are the
real
current
loyal.
standards here for? I didn't even know that they had any movies that they could do anymore.
I don't know. I know it's better than it was at its lowest point. I don't know the exact.
I don't know if I want to sign back up though, just because it's so sporadic.
Yeah, I'm not ready to have my heart broken again.
No, not yet. I need to play the field a little bit first before I get into that kind of relationship again. But. Music. Speaking of relationships.
All right.
You have a relationship with music.
It's very intimate.
Yeah, it is.
I fuck the music.
Very deep.
I make it come. I fuck the music. My serpent tongue. MC Ride. But also Andrew.
I agree.
But yeah. So some of my favorites for this year we've touched on already. You got Orville Peck's Pony, we got Angel Dust's Pretty Buff, and we have Denzel Curry's Zoo. We've talked about them before in previous episodes, so we're going to gloss over them here. I'm going to start with a record I know Nick has heard and actually turned me on to, and that is the 100 Gex album, 1000 Gex.
Yes.
Which is it's the most over-the-top pop music I've ever heard.
This album, okay, how do I explain this album?
It's like Sophie, if you know Sophie, the really bombastic, over-the-top PC pop combined with equal parts mid-2000s scene pop music.
Yes.
And then, like,
all sorts of other elements thrown in, too. It's a fucking,
you got your death growls.
It's a real chef salad.
These guys...
of genres.
Yeah, there's literally just sound
death growls,
collages.
pop punk, chords. God damn, there's, like, everything you could possibly want. What I find interesting about this album, and how it's kind of indicative of the current musical landscape, and what I believe is eventually going to signal the end of genre as we know it. I think there's a lot of signs pointing towards this direction. I think the internet is sort of a place where genre is sort of they meld, and they some genres are becoming one and the same, others are becoming closer in sound, and there's all sorts of weird stuff happening with the younger generation and internet music as a whole. And I think there's no album more indicative of such a trend than this album, because I would say this. It's a romp, and I think it's worth listening to, even if you haven't heard any of this PC music stuff that it definitely is drawing heavily from, because a lot of the beats are just really good. They're danceable, and they bang, and I think that anyone looking for enjoyable, like, really over-the-top pop music, I think we'll find something to bite from here.
I think the only hurdle people might have would be the vocals.
The vocals, okay,
which are just,
yes,
like,
you're right.
On relent. There's not a single vocal track on this album that is not slathered in auto-tune.
Yes.
Which is a purposeful aesthetic choice.
Exactly. It's not because, as some people still think, that the singer, quote unquote, can't sing. It's a deliberate aesthetic choice that is put forward very aggressively in this album. I once compared the vocals to Farrah Abraham.
And I listened to some of that album, and you're right. Like,
yes.
That was the spiritual predecessor to this.
Yeah, which Farrah Abraham, in case anyone doesn't know, was like a reality television star who made an album and accidentally made like a weirdo pop masterpiece.
Was it My Teenage Dream Is Over or something?
My Teenage Dream Has Ended, I think is what it is. And yes, that's I don't know if I would recommend that album, just because that album doesn't have like the really good and danceable beats. Like the beats on that album are like weird dubstep monstrosities. It came from that era, and it combined with the vocals creates a really nightmarish album experience.
It's like a modern day Trout Mask replica.
It is truly weird, and I guess influential in some ways, because yes, the vocals are very similar in this 100 Gex project.
The highest praise I can lather on this album is that one of the songs on here, Stupid Horse, has done something that men in blazers and stupid hats have been trying to do for 30 years, and that's that it made ska tolerable. So shouts out to 100 Gex for that. Everyone else, quit picking it up. Just drop it. Ska's over. Ska's been perfected.
You say that, but now there's going to be a ska renaissance because of this album.
It's going to be like
because
electronic
of that one
ska.
song from this album. Electronic ska. Why not? Why not? I feel like
I can think of several dozen reasons why not that I don't have time to get into. But yeah. Really innovative record here.
Right. This thing is gonna. I think it's going to make an impact, and I do think that it's indicative of where music is headed, in my opinion, in the future. And I think you guys should listen to it.
Yeah, songs to check out. Just because some of the songs on here, they're not really conventional songs.
Right.
Like I said, they're just like sound collages. So recommends here, if you want to dip your toe in the album, you got Stupid Horse, Ringtone, which is probably like the most straightforward pop song on here. Really saccharine,
and it is really sweet, and it's nice.
And then Money Machine, which is the most obnoxious song.
It's an obnoxious like trap anthem, basically.
It's really solid.
Yeah.
So there is that.
It's great album, honestly.
All right, moving on to Fury, Failed Entertainment. Fury,
I have no idea what this is, so please explain.
They're like one of the biggest hardcore bands out. right now. They recently made the leap to run for Cover Records, which is more like a pop punk label. So I was kind of hesitant about that. But this record's still really solid. They stay true to like their old ways. It's really aggressive, but still musical. Like, it's really catchy. The fucking riffs here are chunky as hell. The vocals are aggressive, but not like over the top in a way that like some hardcore vocals could be. So it's hard enough to like not alienate any hardcore fans, but it's enough, it's mellow enough that even like casual fans can sort of latch onto it. It's good entry level hardcore. So they're also a really killer live act. We actually saw them when we went to that Halloween show where we saw Turnstile for the first time. They were one of the openers there, and I wasn't listening to them at the time.
Oh god, that
which
was
happens all the fucking time.
2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, but they fucking killed it. So really good live act.
Interesting.
Definitely check them out. Even if you're not a hardcore fan, like there's like a vaguely like 90s vibe to some of these riffs that are really good. Especially
some 90s riffs.
Yeah, Angels Over Berlin and America, I think, are the highlights off of this bad boy.
All right. Well, I'll be giving that a listen. That's
taking it one more step up, we have Weeping Choir by Full of Hell. Seminal. Well, not even seminal. I keep wanting to call things seminal, but they're not.
Not everything is seminal.
No,
if everything
I know.
was seminal, then nothing is seminal.
No, nothing would be seminal. Okay,
Exactly.
but like another really big name in modern grindcore, they're hardcore adjacent. Full of Hell. They're sticking to their formula that works. It's really just like churning in your face grindcore mixed in with some big ass sludge riffs, and when they're not hitting you with those riffs, and just really hellish vocals that run like the gamut.
Would you say the vocals are Full of Hell?
I would.
Okay,
Very good.
very good.
They're like hitting you with like these like pulverizing electronics.
Yeah.
And this album, it doesn't let up, and it doesn't sound any.
From my experience with this band, because I do have some experience, their albums never let up.
No, they don't. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And like the joy of it is it's really short.
Which that is nice.
It's very important with records like this where there's no breathing room, and frankly, there's not a lot of like variety.
Yeah.
In terms of like their sonic palette, it's important that they keep it brief, and they do. So
I wish modern day rappers would abide by those.
yeah, well,
rules
they're
as
out there for like those streaming bucks.
That's true. Yeah. That doesn't make it right.
There's that, another good one. On the other side, we have Deer Hunters. Why hasn't everything already disappeared?
I meant to listen to this because I do like the band Deer Hunter. I'm not like a huge fan of them, but I do like a lot of their songs, and I like that title.
That is really good.
It's just a nice title.
Yeah, so this really sounds nothing at all like their old stuff. They're
Right.
so they started out as like a garage band,
Yes.
turned into like a shoegaze band, and now they're doing something like indebted to like 60s folk music. It's
Yeah.
very like pastoral. There's like a lot of like harpsichord all over this bad boy, which is something I'm looking for.
Harpsichord.
I know it's one of my favorite instruments. Very underutilized. But so it's in the same vein as like this old folk music, but they still maintain like the experimental edge that they've always had. So if you've listened to this band in the past and you haven't liked it, definitely give this a chance. It's probably like their most palatable release.
Yeah.
I think. I'm a big fan. So tracks to check out: Death in Midsummer, and another one that happens to people. There's actually one track on this where the opening chords, like on a keyboard, sound exactly like the intro to Gary Numan's Cars.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I think that one is called like Greenpoint Gothic. So if you're a big Gary Numan fan, just check out that one song. I know there are some Gary Numan fans out there.
Not as many as Randy Newman, but
Who the fuck's Randy? Is that the salad dressing guy?
no, Randy Newman is the you got a friend.
Oh, you got a friend.
Yeah.
Is he still alive?
Yeah, I think he is. I assume he made a new. I assume he made a song for the new Toy Story. I could be wrong.
Interesting.
But
All right, and then I'll just do.
you remember that Family Guy bit with Randy Newman?
No, what was that?
It was like a really old bit.
Oh, I remember when he like follows Peter around, like narrating his day.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, it's like Lois grabbing the apple and like, gonna take a bite. And then she's like, "Oh, Peter, let's get out of here." Yeah, I like Randy Newman.
Idea for a spin-off podcast. We just discuss our
Family Guy.
favorite Family Guy funniest moments. Yeah.
It's just a podcast version of those YouTube videos from 2007 that are
it's
like
just us describing the bit.
yeah.
And then-
I can't imagine how that wouldn't appeal to people. What's the next thing?
All right, so Bill Callahan's "Shepherd in a Sheepskin Vest."
Fuck, I thought I was gonna listen to this today. I didn't. Because I'm the one that introduced you to this fucking album. I never listened to it.
You did. Well, yeah, you did. I'm a big fan of his prior project, Smog, which same sort of general vibe. Just acoustic singer-songwriter stuff.
He's very consistent.
Yeah, Smog had like more experimental elements. It was a lot more lo-fi.
Right.
So this is a sort of in the same vein as his old stuff, where it's just this guy with a really nice baritone.
It's very minimalist.
Plucking his guitar, singing to you about relationship problems, and
his
I don't
lyrics
know,
are really good.
like the sky and the river and stuff. Oh yeah, no, amazing lyricist. This one's a little bit.
That's the main appeal here.
Yeah, a little bit different than from his old records. Up to this point, his songs were longer. They were like 5-6 minute tracks, and you'd only have a couple on there. And they weren't as stripped down as this album. Like you'd have like multiple guitar tracks. You'd have piano, like some horns, some strings, or whatever. This one is a little more stripped down, and it's also the songs are a lot more stripped down, and that they hover around 2 to 3 minutes instead of like the typical 5 or 6.
Yes,
but it makes up for that. There's 20 fucking songs on this thing. So I would liken Bill Callahan to just like the ideal uncle, where he's got that really soothing voice and he's just speaking to you about the way of the world and teaching you the things you need to know about love and sex and nature.
I don't know if I want my uncle teach me about love and sex.
Well, that's because you don't have any cool uncles, man. That's
true. All my
that is
uncles
the cool uncle.
Most of my uncles are pretty.
My uncles are very lame. I don't. Maybe that's.
Most of my uncles.
Maybe this is just like the idealized. Bill Callahan is the idealized uncle.
Yeah. Him at the barbecue.
Yeah, like when you were a kid, he slipped you some beers where your parents weren't around, and you just chatted, and you felt like you could relate to him more than your stuffy square parents because he lived the sort of like nomadic cool lifestyle that you idolized, whereas your parents worked in like an office and were lame and put applesauce on their pork chops or really stupid
ketchup on their steak.
Yeah, it was like those guys. But then your cool uncle is like teaching you cool tofu based recipes.
I think the two of us have potential in being cool uncles in the future.
Oh, I'm gonna be a bomb ass uncle.
You're dressed like a cool uncle right now.
I am.
Yeah,
thank you.
That's a cool uncle barbecue outfit right there.
I appreciate that. That's all I've ever wanted, really. I don't want to have my own kids. What I want is I want my siblings to have kids, and then I want my friends to have kids, and then I will just be. I get all the fun stuff, but none of the actual responsibility.
Yeah, I also would like to formally pawn off the responsibility of having children to our friends because that could be cool.
Yeah,
it could be interesting. Anyway, it's going to be happening soon.
You have any albums?
I have a few I have like some lightning round recommendations that I'm going to go through because I don't have a whole lot to say about them just because they're not many of them are very fresh in my mind. But do you have anything else?
Oh well, if we're doing recommendations,
sure.
The new National album,
right, which I listened to as well.
Yes. I'm Easy to Find.
Yes.
Is the name.
That is
my favorite band, which is very embarrassing. I couldn't think of the album title.
Very embarrassing.
This album,
fake fan, was
good. It's an improvement over Sleep Old Beast. I don't know how well it holds up to the old stuff, but it was solid. I'm not gonna get into too much detail.
Right.
I did recently drive 8 hours to Georgia to see them though, and I can tell you they crush it live. The record translates really well. The energy they bring is incredible.
Right.
So big recommend there. Another recommendation is the new Priests album, The Seduction of Kansas. Really good post-punk, really good lyrically. The singer of this band actually has like a degree in cultural criticism, and that sort of translates over into the lyrics. And this is sort of a different sound for them. It's more mature than sort of their earlier stuff, but still really solid. So check that out. And then I'll pass it over to you.
So those are your recommendations.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have a few recommendations of my own here. The first one is going to be the new It's going to be the new Freddie Gibbs Madlib album. Bandana. If you're familiar with these artists, I'm sure you know that they've collaborated before with Pinata. While this album I don't think is as solid across the board as Pinata, I do think that the collection of beats here are still really, really good, really chill, and a lot of good use of samples, as always, when it comes to Madlib's production. And I think that Freddie Gibbs is sort of in a different place than he was in Pinata, and you sort of see him getting a little more into politics and stuff to varied effect, because there is one point where he gets on some kind of anti-vax soapbox, which is really weird that they let him do that. Although apparently he's like a member of the Nation of Islam now. Did you know that?
I didn't.
That might have something to do with that. I don't really know what their stance is on that. It is very strange.
It's good. I don't go to rappers for like medical advice.
I don't,
for the most part. So.
Neither do I, and I don't think anyone really should, honestly. But I do think that I think he's kind of experimenting a little bit with his flows. He's doing a little more singing, and I think it mostly comes across pretty well. And I think that if you're a rap fan, you definitely should. It's a must listen for the year. Did you ever listen to the full thing?
I did.
What'd you think of it?
I'm kind of over Freddie Gibbs.
You're kind of over Freddie Gibbs?
Yeah. I don't feel like he doesn't mix it up enough to sort of, I don't know, justify how prolific he is, which I mean is normally a good thing. I don't know. It's just he's not like engrossing enough for me. Right. Like, I see why people like him, because he's technically really good as a rapper, and Madlib obviously kills it. Yes. Whenever he produces.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't. The thing I do is I just don't listen to any of his projects except for his Madlib collaborations. Yeah. Actually, no, I listened to the one that has what was it called? It's the one that has the song "Forever and a Day" in it. You know. Okay, well, I don't know that one. I don't. My exposure to Freddie Gibbs and his raps, and they're all cocaine raps and stuff. Like, for the most part. I mean, I think he's interesting in the sense that he does have a little bit of variety as far as framing. He can rap as in like the while in the shoes of like some of his girlfriends or whatever, which he utilized pretty well in both Pinata and in this album Bandana. But for the most part, he does cocaine raps, which is why Pusha T collaborated with him in this album. I think that's all too appropriate, and I think most of the features, including Pusha T, go off pretty well as well.
Anderson .Paak, who I have loathed all the way back to the days when he was like collaborating with
he's
like Milo.
One of your fucking enemies, dude.
Yeah, back when he was like Malibu Breezy or something. I don't remember his old name. But he was actually really solid on this.
I was about to say I really liked his feature.
Time, I have ever been able to like listen to a contribution of his.
No, he was really good on this.
Yeah.
No, he sounded great. Like, his lyrics were good. But yeah, no. So I recommend that one. Another one I'd recommend, and this is going to be real lightning round shit, I recommend the album by Waste Blood, Andromeda? Is that what it's called?
No.
What is it called?
Titanic Rising. Andromeda's a song
You're right.
Yeah.
God damn it. Let's cut that out. Yes, the album Titanic Rising by Waste Blood. Really good songwriting from her. I really like a lot of the, I guess, I don't know, how would you describe the production of this album?
It's kind of like Baroque poppy.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting, and it's if you're familiar with her as an artist, then you basically know what to expect. But I just think there's a lot of solid songs on it, and let's see, what else do I have to recommend? Oh, the new Injury Reserve album. Pretty solid as well. A lot of good songs, a lot of good features. And one other thing that I'm going to recommend is
listen to the first 5 tracks on the Injury Reserve record. Only listen to the first 5 tracks on any Injury Reserve record. Because
that's true.
When they're aggressive and going in on their tracks and they're very in your face, it's good. But when they try to do more emotional, like mellower tracks,
it doesn't go off as well.
It's very bad. So you only need like the first 5 songs on that new one.
Honestly, I only really listen to their aggressive stuff anyway. I kind of tune out the rest of it. But yes, their aggressive stuff is really good. And I think the feature is really good on that album as well. And one more recommendation I have is the album Gray Area by Little Sims. I don't know if you're familiar with this one.
Never heard of it.
Okay, so she's a rapper from Britain. Okay, and her album that she comes out with here is a really good and personal album. Her lyrics are solid. The production's solid. It's different. It's different from anything else you're hearing these days. I don't really even know how to describe it, but I think that if you really want like a good introspective rap record that that you can kind of just throw on while basically in any kind of situation, not really a party type situation, but whenever you're just chilling, it's a really good one. And I think she's really solid and is definitely going to be an up and comer in the next few years. But you know what? We're done with music now. You had some other things you want to talk about.
Right. Yeah, just some big events from this year.
And we're going to run down some of the biggest and our favorite events of the year 2019 so far.
Right. So we've talked about this in the past, but James Gunn, our boy, is back at the helm.
Yes, we won.
We did.
The people won.
Dave Bautista won.
That's true. I mean, I do like, especially Dave Bautista. Most of the
everyone
cast,
went to bat for him.
Yeah, they all went to bat for him. Maybe not as much as I personally preferred, but like I understand that their situation, there's contracts involved and stuff. But they all went to bat for him. They all spoke out against the treatment of him, and basically, Disney decided to just bring him back. And I don't know if they were planning to do that from the beginning, but I'm happy it happened either way.
All right, another one, more positive karma. Richie Ashcroft of The Verve has regained the rights to Bittersweet Symphony, which he has not had since it came out, because there is a very brief Rolling Stone sample. So all the royalties from this song, this massive song, like everybody knows this fucking song.
Yeah, it's in that Cruel Intentions.
Yeah, has been going to the manager of the Rolling Stones since it came out in like the 90s. And he's finally won the rights back.
These are one of those like weird like music stories that you hear about like artists being royally fucked by some
top 100 on like VH1.
Yeah,
things.
God, that is
very
insane.
whack.
But good. I'm glad he's got it back. Hopefully he was doing all right while the rights were not his. But good for you.
All right, then we got King Crimson is on Spotify now.
Yes.
So all you prog snobs out there, rejoice.
You can now enjoy one of the best bands in that genre, in my opinion. All their albums are there. They got In the Court of the Crimson King. They got Red. They got it all. It's all there, baby. And while we're on that subject, Chance the Rapper's Acid Rap is finally on Spotify after not being there, like literally up until this point for some reason. But there you go. Now you can enjoy his best album by far.
All right. And then another thing we've touched on, the rest of 21 Savage. Remember, that was the very first segment of this podcast.
No. The very first segment was the Superman thing.
Oh, it was. Okay.
But it was one of the very first segments.
It was the second. I transitioned into that.
Immaculately so, yeah.
But so he's back. He also this year, on a more positive note, he launched this program that was meant to teach kids, like high schoolers, like about having bank accounts and like fiscal responsibility, which is something you're not taught in high school at all.
No.
Nick and I, we were in our AP economics course, we were taught like various types of pie charts.
About Plato's Allegory of the Cave.
Like a horrendously butchered attempt at explaining us the Allegory of the Cave every other class.
Finance was one of the biggest wastes of times, like as far as the classes are concerned.
I had to like
AP classes
learn
especially
to do my taxes like online.
So did I.
Like I had to like Google how to do taxes. Like it's absurd.
God, Jesus Christ, that class was such a missed opportunity. We could have learned.
But I mean, yeah, and this is every economics class in high school. Like you're not given any actual practical knowledge. No, it's out here like
you're talking about like
your trap rappers now have to provide this kind of information.
Isn't that insane?
Yeah.
But in economics, you're just basically given like the Milton Friedman like usual bullshit. Like there's no such thing. Yeah, you're given there's no such thing as a free lunch thing, and that's basically it.
And in addition, the same program he helped provide jobs to like 150 at-risk teens. So 21 Savage doing a lot for the community in Atlanta.
I'm so happy I vouched for him because he is proving himself to everyone.
He's a solid guy. Who would have thought?
He's a solid guy.
Speaking of solid guys, my last one here. One sad one before we get to the big one. The death of Stephen Hillenburg, creator of SpongeBob.
Yes, that is
rest in power.
Rest in power, Stephen Hillenburg. It's very sad, and let me just get into something real quick related to this. It also involves the sort of the abuse of power from studios onto artists. As soon as he died,
they announced
the spinoff when Stephen Hillenburg very specifically requested that there not be a spinoff for SpongeBob, and they basically just decided fuck it once he did pass. And it happened so quickly that I know in my gut that they were planning this from the fucking beginning.
Yeah.
They were waiting,
biding their time,
which is insanely unethical and just scuzzy. And the fact that Nickelodeon would think that they can get away with this, I mean,
they can, and they are.
I mean, yes, they can and they are, but guys, don't get involved with this. Boycott this fucking shit, because there's no way that Stefan Hillenburg would appreciate it. And I'm sure the artists that are going to be involved with them, I'm sure they're going to do a fine job. Blah blah blah. But really, we shouldn't allow this kind of like abuse of power to stand. And I don't want to get into the on the soapbox like I did for the Sonic the Hedgehog episode, but it's disgusting to see. We hate to see it, folks.
Yeah, especially because that show is like. The early seasons, I don't know how it's doing now. I know it's still going, but it's like so embedded in like our collective consciousness now, like as a culture.
It's such a
like nobody in our
touchstone.
Age group can go like a day without somehow referencing the show.
Like even if it's by accident. Yeah, exactly. It's so seminal, and he cared so much about like the show, and it's just such a shame to see them just fucking do the easiest possible like fucking money grubbing move. And it's something I come to expect from Nickelodeon, who have a history of shady business practices and getting involved with shady people and kind of just ignoring their shadiness. But
we'll move
on
to something more positive.
A little more good
highlight
vibes
of
here.
This year,
let's get those good
the
vibes. Let's end this
ascent
strong.
of Lil Nas X to superstardom. Well-deserved superstardom.
We stand a king.
We do. He started in the trenches running Twitter accounts, like meme accounts,
he's a
choose your
meme
own
man
adventure
through and
accounts, and then he dropped the hottest fucking track of 2019.
Old Town Road, a track that if you don't like, then you're wrong. And I don't usually say that, but
Objectively,
yes. And the reason is not only because of the abject quality of this track, which everyone in this room agrees with, I'm sure. But I'm talking about how
we should point out we're not the only two people in the room.
Yes, we have other people. We have other people. Hey, it's producer John. Hey, Paige, you want to say hi to the people?
Hi.
It's Paige. And yeah, it's not just that. It's this kind of harkens back to what we were talking about beforehand with the 100 Gex album. This is a sort of sign of the breaking down of genres. The two genres of country and hip hop were almost diametrically opposed for the longest time, and they were always evolving like parallel like. And they kind of come from a similar place in some ways, but it was almost like a cultural faux pas to like one and the other for the longest time.
Or to like either, if you're like one of those kids in middle school who are like, all
everything but
genres
rap
except rap and country.
Which just means that they listen to 98 Rock.
Yeah, it's literally it's just like alternative music.
Yeah. It's the most boring people imaginable. And I always say this: if you don't like rap and country, then you just hate working class people, and that's just a fact. But what Lil Nas X is doing, I think, is a magical thing. It started off as this is meme magic. All right, this is the real meme magic, because this song is basically like the original version. It's a track that nobody expected to get to the top of the charts. It's a novelty track, but for whatever reason it hit a chord with the culture, and you have now this breaking down of cultural barriers. All right, we have hip hop heads collaborating with country people. We have all sorts of.
Well, I just want to throw it out there that's been happening for a while. You remember that like song? It was like Nelly and then like some country person.
Yeah, there has been like it's you're thinking of Florida Georgia Line.
No, it was before that. Like there was like another one where it was like whoever was the rapper on the track was apologizing for sagging his pants.
Oh,
and
God,
then whoever
no.
was the country guy on the track.
You're thinking of that was LA Cool J, and that was called Accidental Racist.
Yeah,
I forget who the country guy was, but the song was
They're
called
all the same.
Accidental Racist. And yeah, you're right. That is an example of this happening before, and there has
It's
been
very
examples
poorly.
of this happening before, but they've all been embarrassing.
No,
and now we have something that's actually finally playing to the appeals of this genre.
Did you Google that for us, producer John?
I did. It's Brad Paisley. Apparently.
Okay, yes. So it was Brad Paisley and LL Cool J,
Titans of their respective genres.
and the song was basically the song where it was like Brad Paisley like apologizing for slavery.
Yeah, if you
and then
forgive me for slavery, I'll forgive you for sagging your pants. Like that was.
It's like I understand where it was coming from, but it was still really embarrassing. It was so bad. This is one of the few times where there is actually a melding the genres that works. It plays to the strengths of both genres, and I feel like it really means nothing but good for the future. And if we keep at this, if he keeps releasing these remixes with all these meme lords featuring, and if people keep tuning in, which I'm sure they will, then he will have the song with the longest chart presence, the longest #1 chart presence of all time, beating out Despacito and something else. I think Despacito is tied with another song. I don't remember what, but I hope it beats Despacito.
I'm cheering for this kid.
I'm rooting for this kid.
He seems like such a wholesome guy.
He's good. He's got a good Twitter presence. He seems like a genuinely nice guy. He knows how to pull people together. You never thought that you'd see a collaboration with Young Thug and the Walmart yodeling kid.
Yeah.
Yes. But because of this man, because of this this wholesome figure, we are seeing that. We're in a world where these barriers no longer exist, and it might be a positive indicator of what's to come, where maybe all of us truly can be hand in hand and sing Kumbaya, and we can band together and destroy the oppressors that are completely depriving us of a life
step.
worth living.
Once we realize the only true divisions are class divisions, then
Then they won't be able to stop us.
and we'll mark it down that this all began when Lil Nas X collabed with Billy Ray Cyrus.
Let it be known that Lil Nas X started the revolution, and it was all because of a little song called "Old Town Road"
remix featuring Billy Ray Cyrus.
Yes. Anyway, Andrew, this was fun. This was good.
It was great. We should do it again next week.
Yeah. You know what? Deal. I'll take you up on that. Anyway, we should probably plug our pluggables for the audience today. My name is Nick, and I am on the Instagram. That's Mcgettnoided, MCGETT_noided.
On Instagram as parlance of the times.
Good
I got
one.
It. Hell yeah. I nailed it this week.
I'm so proud of you.
We're on Twitter, Total Pod Forever.
That's right.
We're on YouTube and Facebook.
That's
Total
right.
Entertainment Forever. You can find producer John on YouTube at Planned Obsolescence.
Yeah. And John, I actually had somebody asking about your band name. Do you want to disclose it?
It is called Laundromat.
That's right. John has a band. It's called Laundromat. Is it available for listening anywhere, John?
No, but very soon. Also, I am now on Twitter as well under P Obsolescence. One word. I couldn't fit my whole username.
Right on.
All right.
Anyway, guys, you all have a nice night, and we'll catch you on the flip side.